So the FIA finally released their statement today about the controversial rear wing of McLaren from last weekend in Baku, and I'm not going to let them get away with this, okay?
You can't keep getting away with this! You can't keep getting away with it!
You might have seen this story elsewhere. You might have seen what they said, but I'm not going to let them just skirt by with this blatant hypocrisy. We're going to go over another little example of when the FIA had to intervene on a rear wing and how it compares to this one. Because this is a little bit ridiculous now, and it kind of ruins the season for me. So let's get right into it. FIA says McLaren's rear wing is legal after Red Bull query. So if you guys didn't see the video last weekend, the McLaren rear wing, it was doing a whole lot of this. And the reason I'm not going to show the video is because the FIA, or not FIA, but Formula One management, the people that claim clips on Instagram and YouTube and all those other places, they've been claiming the video. So I'm not going to show the video again. I can show you this and you can get a perfect idea of what's going on. Obviously, here we just have some rear wing flexing. And we're going to show you here too. Every car has a little bit of rear wing flexing, even though it's banned. Even though it's banned, because there's things called deflection tests, and as long as they pass these deflection tests and these load tests on the rear wing, and it doesn't bend too much, then it passes. So as you can see here, the difference in the McLaren rear wing, this little gap here, that's the difference of how much it's flexing down as it's going on a high speed. Ferrari's in the middle, and Red Bull has the smallest gap here at the bottom. Now, it only shows these three teams. I don't know about every team, but we're only talking about McLaren. The other thing we can see here, and you can see it from the onboard clear as day, as you can see here, this little end flap on both sides is lifting up above the edge and opening up the DRS flap a little bit. Um, that's not legal. I don't know who told them that. But as you can see, even the design here, the design that cuts in here, both of these other designs, they pretty much go all the way out to the sides. There's no cut in the middle like that. It just goes out to the outside. So they've clearly designed it like this on purpose. And what it led to was not only the flexing of a pretty significant amount, but this little end piece, this is what it looks like from a lower angle. It's essentially opening the DRS flap. So that's why it's been called the Mini-DRS. That's what everybody's calling it because it is. Because that's exactly what it is. And that right there should not be legal. Flexing, I'm going to say if it passes the deflection test the FIA has, regardless of what it flexes in the race, it should be allowed. Now remember I said that too when we talk about the other example. So FIA says, Formula One's governing body, the FIA says, McLaren's rear wing complies with the rules after rivals Red Bull and Ferrari raised questions about its legality. So Perez came out after the race and said it's out of the regulations, and Charles Leclerc said it is controversial to say the least. Of course, when they asked McLaren or whatever, Oscar Piastri was like, "I have no idea," but that's not the reason that he said it's certainly not the magic ticket or bullet for why we're competitive. I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah, bro, I'd be pretty happy with it too if I held off Charles Leclerc for 30 to 40 laps inside my DRS range for the entire race and maintained first place without DRS or a slipstream. I'd be pretty happy with that too, brother. Yeah, I think that goes without being said. But that's exactly what the problem is. That should never happen. Uh, if you were watching the entire race, Leclerc literally tried probably 30 to 40 times, lap after lap after lap, inside his DRS, trying to catch up, and make a move into turn one, and was never able to even to get close enough to make what would resemble any kind of move, not even threaten Piastri at all. So yeah, that must be nice for you guys. The F1's rules dictate that the aerodynamic components must be rigidly secured and immobile. Um, I don't know if it's moving down, flexing down, that would be mobility, I imagine. Uh, FIA continues to say that they are closely monitoring the flexibility of bodywork on all cars and reserve the right to yada 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 to stop anybody whenever they feel like it if it's somebody that they don't like, and let somebody else go through with the rules if they do like them and want them to win. So that's pretty much what they said there. And yeah, they said it passed all the deflection tests. The McLaren rear wing appears to flex at the front corners of the flap as speed increases on the straight. The flap is the upper part of the wing that flips upwards when the DRS overtaking aid is deployed. So this is what they're talking about. And again, we'll compare with the other cars. Their entire like rear flap here essentially opens up. This is like all the way out to the sides here essentially. And this is what maybe not all the way out to the outside because that's fixed. So maybe it's to here, but This is where their DRS flap opens, and they're essentially pushing so much load. They're pushing so much load into this area that it's picking up. It's hitting it in here and essentially picking up this piece on the end. So opening up the DRS flap. And what am I doing here? And F1 FIA has said that's fine. FIA said that's fine. So that's cool. That's cool, right? I mean that's certainly like a new ruling for them, right? They definitely wouldn't have banned something even less ridiculous than that like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? Let me bring you guys back to 2021. Lewis Hamilton snitched out Red Bull. No. The Red Bull's rear wing was flexing. Let's take a look. Yeah, so that's pretty significant. Noticeable, certainly on an onboard. And that led, Lewis Hamilton to uh, having some kind of complaint about it and bringing it up to the FIA. Let's see. He said the Red Bulls are really fast on the straights. They have a bendy wing on the back of the car, which they put on today, and they gained at least 3/10 from this wing. Christian Horner, the horn dog, comes out with essentially the exact same defense and says the FIA was happy with the wing design and stressed that it had passed the necessary deflection tests that are supposed to prevent any excessive flex on the bodywork. So what happened then, man? Why is why is this why is this not okay? No mini DRS, mind you, no mini DRS, but this is okay. Not only the massive flexing bigger than all of the top teams, significantly, noticeably, you can measure these things, but the mini DRS. And that brings me to the main point of the video. The FIA are a bunch of fucking hypocrites. They're a bunch of hypocrites. They will have rules for thee and not for me, for McLaren and Red Bull, because you know what? At the end of the day, guys, it's this is a business. This is an entertainment business. This company, all major sports are. Whenever people understand that, they'll understand why certain things happen in these sports, why certain teams win all the time. Chiefs. Um, the FIA and F1 are all in cahoots. FOM, all these companies, they're all working together to make this one big thing and to make it as big as possible. And obviously, I can appreciate that. But when you're compromising the competitive nature of the sport and compromising just the integrity of the design of everything in the sport, because obviously they designed that with the intention of that effect. There's no way you're going to try to tell me that they just made that and were like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know that did that. Oh, we had no idea." Like, no, man, they knew that. They knew that was going to happen. FIA considered taking action over it. They obviously took a look at it. They could see the onboards. They could do whatever testing they want. They're totally willing to do whatever tests, but nothing for McLaren. And when it happens to Red Bull, and this was even before they started winning the championships. I mean, this is 2021, so Max hadn't even won the championship yet, and they're already on their dick because what? Because Lewis Hamilton said so. Because the golden boy Lewis Hamilton said so. Is that why? To give him a little bit better chance? It seems to me like Red Bull outdeveloped Mercedes and would have easily beaten them every race if they didn't ban that. So why is this okay? Why is this okay? I'd love to hear some comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. I, I, the main issue I have with it is that it compromises the integrity of the rest of the season. It compromises the competition of it because I love that every weekend we show up, or every race weekend we show up, and there's 4 teams that have a possibility of walking away with a win this year. That's amazing. That makes it so much more interesting, obviously, than just one team winning over and over again and one driver winning over and over again. But that does not mean you allow some shit like this. That if it was anybody else, especially Red Bull or even Ferrari or whatever, probably not Hamilton, they probably let him do it too, but if it was anybody else, they're going to stop them. If it was anybody else challenging, and if this was happening to everybody else challenging Max, maybe they let him do it. You know what I mean? I think they want a changing of the guard. I don't think they want anybody anymore to get close to records like Lewis and like Schumacher and Senna, all these greats of the past. I don't think they want any of these new guys to entangle themselves in any of that legacy. I think they want their legacy of the good old days, and I think they're going to drive this shit into the ground doing stuff like this. And the new car design for next year, where all the teams are like, how the hell are we even going to do this? I think they want to preserve the past. I think they want to make the most money as possible in the future, and they don't really care about the integrity of it or the perception of the integrity or what's actually happening. Because guys, if you watch Baku, it was like 30 to 40 laps, man. It was ridiculous to watch Leclerc get within 6 tenths on this before the main straight, come up and have just no chance to pass because they have DRS on in first place the whole time. No slipstream, no DRS, and somehow held them off the entire time. Piastri's a phenomenal talent, and he had an amazing race, but I don't think he stays in the lead at least for the whole time. I'm not saying he couldn't have re-overtaken or anything like that, but that's what we're getting taken away from us now. If the McLaren's in first, you just know that they're gonna win because they have DRS on the whole fucking time. So yeah, man, that's it for me. I'm upset. And it was just getting so fun watching the season and like not knowing like who was gonna win and it being like real good competition, and then it's just shit like this. Like with the front wings, and they were like, oh, that's fine. We're like, okay, a little bit flex in the front wings, whatever. And now this, man, this is too far. This is too far. And I'd love to know when they implemented this too. The final note of this video, I'd love to know when they first started using this, because I went back and looked through pretty much all of the last 4, 5, 6 races, and you don't really get a rear wing view from either McLaren in almost any of the races. So I couldn't really do any due diligence and check if it was happening before. But I'd love to know when they implemented this and what the difference has been since then, because it might be a new thing. Maybe they just added it in Baku and that's why. But if this is going to be the standard for the rest of the season, where if they're in first place, they don't need DRS to stay in first, that's just not a good precedent to set. I just don't like that for the sport. We're having such a good season, man. They're going to ruin it with some shit like this. Whatever. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you think it should be illegal? I think that's pretty ridiculous. But what do you think? What should they do? Should they do the same thing they did to the Red Bull? Should they ban it? Should they ban it and give them a couple races to change it? I'm sure they have a rear wing they can throw on. They've been way ahead in development all year. I'm sure they got a rear wing. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow with my predictions and betting picks for the race this weekend in Singapore. I'll be back for qualifying, the recap, as well as the race. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more F1 content, and I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.